Welcome to Security Speakeasy, where we talk about all things network security. Today, we are discussing why modern organizations need HTTPS visibility and how they can start with decryption. My name is Ganesh Balamitran, Senior Product Marketing Manager for Next Generation Firewalls at Palo Alto Networks. I'm joined today by Sahil Mehta, Product Manager for Next Generation Firewalls at Palo Alto Networks.
Thanks so much for the intro, Ganesh. Happy to be here.
All right, let's start by getting a high level view of the encrypted threat landscape. So, Sahil, how much of the traffic that enterprises are seeing today is encrypted? And can you walk us through how attackers are hiding their attacks through encryption?
Absolutely. So the vast majority of internet traffic is encrypted. So between HTTPS and legacy HTTP, 98% is HTTPS versus only 2% HTTP. That means that attackers can use standard protocols that all of us use to hide threats. So for example, you're likely familiar with the classic log4j vulnerability. A bit of context, log4j is a pretty commonly used logging library for application developers. However, the vulnerability allowed attackers to insert a malicious payload into an app, which then enables them to steal credentials, sensitive data, and then insert malware into the app as well. And since the attacker can leverage encryption, they can insert this payload into the app without any kind of detection. This is an example of how through encryption, any threat is invisible without HTTPS visibility.
Thanks, Sahil. So then, would you say that organizations that are not exactly like decrypting before inspecting, that these are just exposed to attackers and they may not even realize it? Like when we look at the attack landscape, um, can you walk us through under what attack scenarios do protections become ineffective without decryption?
Absolutely. So any attack, such as, say, a malware file attached in an email that hides its signature in HTTPS encryption, that's undetectable without decrypting the traffic. So that's a large portion of the attacks that we see. That's 90% of malware attacks. That's 65% of phishing attacks that are encrypted and therefore invisible without SSL decryption. So this accounts for a majority, if not the vast majority, of threats that an organization will face. A common example that we see a lot is things like malware in DNS over HTTPS and phishing links in emails. These are kinds of attacks where unless you can actually see the content, not just encrypted content, but the content in plain text, there's no way to detect them. There are only a few kind of network protections then you can do without decryption, like maintaining a list of known malicious URL domains. So at the very least, you might know the URL that a user is going to. And if you can match it, then maybe you can do some basic protection. But this covers only a small segment of attacks. Otherwise, organizations are currently blind without decryption.
So here's a best practices questions for practitioners. Do organizations need to decrypt traffic in both directions, as in encrypted traffic that's coming in from the internet, as well as that which is leaving and going out to the internet from the organization?
Absolutely. So your organization, it'll have risks in both directions. We already discussed traffic coming from the internet. Things would contain things like encrypted malware and other threats that are invisible without decryption. But you also have risks that are going outward. A classic example is data loss, when if you have either an intended or unintended internal user sending sensitive data outside an organization. Normally, you would use a data loss prevention capability, and Palo Alto Networks has an excellent enterprise DLP service. However, this DLP service can do little to nothing without actually seeing the traffic that's leaving the network, actually decrypting and inspecting it. So this is why, in order to secure organization, you need it both ways. And this is also one of the advantages of doing decryption within the firewall, is that you can then integrate it with your other service capabilities as smooth as possible to make your organization much more secure.
Thanks, Sahil. This is great information, and it's really good to understand the importance of decrypting network traffic. So, then one final question. What are the challenges that network security teams face in going about actually implementing decryption?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I spend a lot of my time ensuring that I can support customers through that onboarding process. And one of the first challenges is obtaining approval from IT and security leadership to begin implementing decryption. Decryption is one of those items on the roadmap that can often be kicked down the road many times over. I've seen many customers start paying for very advanced security services for years, but they haven't gotten any of the benefits out of those services since they haven't started decrypting traffic. So because of that, this is ensuring that they can actually get the security benefits from the advanced capabilities that they're paying for. Another challenge is ensuring that your firewall is sized effectively for the performance needs of decryption. This is something that our sales engineering team can support through this process to ensure that you don't run into a situation where you're unable to decrypt due to the limitations of your firewall. Lastly is some technical edge cases you might face. Specifically, there are some applications, especially some on mobile, that use features like certificate pinning, which might make decryption infeasible for those cases. What that means for you as an organization is that you should deploy decryption in a phased, measured manner. Start with the proof of concept and then expand outward and see what challenges you might face along the way, rather than starting all at once with the flip of a switch. This way, you can ensure that you encounter these challenges in a much more smooth process.
Yeah, it feels like for decryption, you really need to employ like a good project management mindset towards deploying decryption rather than just like flip a switch and expect everything to work out. But this way, you can work out the kinks at a smaller scale when you're deploying decryption and then go big. I think that's like a really important point for network security teams that are thinking about decryption to keep in mind, just going about it in a phased manner. So, thanks, Sahil, for joining us at Security Speakeasy. This was a great discussion. Thanks for joining us here to talk about HTTPS visibility and decryption. And thanks to all of you for watching. If you like the show, click the button below, subscribe to this channel, and visit paloaltonetworks.com.